Hey everybody, this is Perch. What's the Sherlock Holmes quote? Something like the simplest answer is usually the correct one. Is that Sherlock Holmes or that's somebody else? I don't know. Anyway, the idea behind it, which is again, not a very complicated thought, but the idea behind it is this: that as human beings, we like to look for reason behind things. We like to explore and try it. But what if this? But what if that? There's all these elaborate activities that take place where we try and create meaning for things that, often have a very simple answer to it. It's like one of the things that I hate about modern politics, both sides, all sides, that is not a fence-sitter position, by the way, that is a hate all of them position, is that you have people who are clearly crooks. And people, if it happens to align to your party, you will find the elaborate reasons why this is some kind of crazy scheme that, means your guy was actually innocent, or woman, or whatever it happens to be. It's like, this one politician seems to have, their bank account went from having nothing in it to $100 million over the course of 5 years while they were a politician. But that's in excess of their salary. I wonder how that money got there. It's like, well, I'm sure it was a combination of, a Saudi prince investment and, some land deals that worked off and a magic genie and no, it's no, we all know what it is. Anyway, comics are like that. And what is the expression that Zach says from time to time? The goo goo gaga brain, goo goo gaga brain, goo goo brain. Anyway, dumbasses is what he's saying. That's a polite way of saying dumbass. It exists everywhere. One of the things where he used that expression at one point recently, and he was saying, the comic industry is going to change as we know it. No, I'm like paraphrasing here. No, not go away completely. Marvel and DC are still going to exist. Comics are still going to get made. Don't do that goo goo gaga brain of all the comics. I agree. Obviously, I agree with that statement. I say it all the time. The people who say, oh, so you think all comics are going to go away forever and ever and ever? No, that's stupid. But keep in mind, there are plenty of stupid people out there. I get in regular arguments with people who tell me that they are 100% sure, based on the YouTube videos they're watching, that 0 comics will be produced in the next year. There were people out there saying, DC Comics will cease to exist as a company in the next 6 months. For sure. And when I said, oh, that's bullshit, it's like, well, we'll see. Well, that was 2020. It's now 2023 going on 2024. Yeah, I guess we saw. I guess we did. Oh, I didn't mean that. Oh, fuck off. Yes, you did. Anyway. But a lot of things in comics are not complicated. And one of the things that has come up lately, and I did a video about it, and I've talked about it before, is this notion of we have to change our comics. We have to appeal to a, quote, new audience, trademark patent pending, because our old audience is rapidly dying. And what's funny about that is such an absurd statement. I've talked about it. Others have talked about it. Zach talked about it. It is such a dumbass statement that it should just get laughed at immediately out the gate. Just record scratch, stop. It's stupid because it makes no sense. Now, I grant you, if you are a comic creator and you do not, basically do basic dental care, if you're one of the people, and several of them have posted about how they woke up and teeth just fell out of their mouths because, I don't know, these things happen with teeth. They just randomly eject from your gums at various times. There's if that's you, if that's your reality, that your teeth will not stay tethered to your mouth, then I suppose I understand why you think your entire comic publishing, your audience that you're publishing to are all going to magically drop dead in their early 40s. Because I swear to God, there are people who legitimately seem to believe this is true, that death is imminent for their population. Look, here's the thing. No, it's unlikely that people actually believe this. It's highly unlikely that people actually believe this. They use it as an excuse to do what they want. It's the same. Is clearly embezzling money, taking campaign finances, putting in their own bank, their own pocket, taking bribes and kickbacks. We know this is happening. It's clear as day this is happening. But because we want to believe something else, because we want to support our party, our whatever it is, we will invent all kinds of crazy-ass scenarios as to where it must not be true. So the same thing happens with comics. It's clear that older folk, and when I say older folks, I'm talking people in their late 30s, early 40s, are still living, and in many cases, more affluent, more likely to pay $5.99 or higher for variant covers and other bullshit that you're doing as a publisher. We know that these people still exist. We know that they're still buying. Common sense shows us that. You can go outside of your home. I know for several people, there is still the unbreakable terror of COVID, and you're terrified to go out. And it didn't stop people from being terrified of hanging out at parties at New York Comic Con, but whatevs. Anyway, if that is your reality, and you never go outside and literally touch grass, not just type that on Twitter, then I suppose you might be forgiven for not realizing that it turns out there are people wandering around outside who are older than 40. And those people, because they tend to drive in their, middle-class kind of cars and live in their middle-class suburbs and everything else, you can see they clearly have money. Clearly have money. So, because they clearly have money, that is money, if you are as a business person are so inclined, you might want to seize or take or have for your own. And so this idea that comic books, we've got to find a new audience because the old one is imminently dying. And what was the one retailer who said a lot of these older readers are getting into their 40s and they're going to stop reading soon, mostly because they'll be dead. Again, liar or stupid. Could be both. In fairness, it can be a and, not an or. But this is the kind of logic that's going on in comics right now. And to me, we can talk about all the other different pieces of who's hired where, what their politics are, price tag, paper quality, distribution, where comics are showing up. The challenge is we've got people making comics who are dumb as fuck, who believe this kind of stuff. Not all of them, not even a majority of them. But to me, it should be a disqualifier. It's kind of like if you're interviewing somebody for a job and the person's like, do you have any questions? This is this nice accounting job and we're anxious to have you come in here and get into that Excel and crunch those numbers. We're excited for it. And the person's like, I got just one question. Are we within 100 yards of a playground or school? To me, that's a interesting question. You are not getting the job. That is a disqualifier. If I run a comic publishing company, or I have, I'm doing my thing in comics, and an editor, creator, somebody comes out with the, hey, we need to write new comics. We need to appeal to a different market because our current market is they're getting into their 40s, and so they're definitely going to die soon, like in the next month or two. To me, that's all right, thank you for your interest in this job, but unfortunately, I will not be allowing you to edit, the Avengers, because that's dumb as fuck. That this is our audience that we're trying to appeal to. This is our market that we care about. These are customers that we need in order to survive and function and flourish as a company. And your question of do we need to forget about all those people because, there's an imminent threat of death makes me think you're either a moron or some kind of serial killer who knows something I don't. I don't know. But that's the problem we have. But it goes back to another thing that I've talked about that I know gets people riled up and they struggle with it. But this is where I think the goo goo gaga brain tends to come into effect. Anyone with half a brain knows exactly what it is I'm trying to say here. And it's simply this. When you hire people for your company on the cheap and you pay them very low money, you attract a staff that, that can live on 35, 40,000 a year. The way they're able to live on that is that they're either, completely irresponsible with their own jobs, or they're living in some kind of 20 of them baked into an apartment, or they're just living like shit, or they're doing perpetual GoFundMes or whatever it happens to be, but their life isn't great. This is, I'm sorry for all these analogies because some of them probably sting, and I'm sure the boutique and wildly out of context. So I'm not saying this is a perfect analogy by any stretch of the imagination. But meth addicts do not go to country clubs. They go to burnt out buildings. They go to abandoned parks. They go to, under the train tracks, wherever they happen to go. That's where meth addicts go. People who have no money do not sit in business class. They often don't go onto planes at all because they can't afford it. Now, I'm not shaming people who have no money, but I am pointing out that if you have somebody in your comic company who is, say, an editor or somebody who's in charge of, marketing to an audience that does have money, you probably want to have somebody there who understands what's going on with that target market, at least to some extent. Because if you don't, you are going to market and promote your books to a non-existent audience. And what happens is when you hire people on the cheap and you pay them nothing, you attract people who will take nothing. And the people who will take nothing do not have any skin in the game. They don't have any real, motivation to make things better. Why would they? Their motivation is to make the world kind of one they're comfortable with. And the one they're comfortable with is like the meth addict, somebody who is, it's underneath the train tracks. It's not the country club. But when you're running a business, you kind of need everyone who's there to be, shooting for, striving for, struggling for billions. You don't want people who are like, well, I'm going to go to the smallest niche audience possible because that's the one I'm comfortable with, because that's the one I know. Now, again, if you're writing a comic book about a homeless person or, an artist whose teeth falls out of their head from time to time, then, getting somebody with some experience in that area might be a good idea. I don't know. Why not? But you don't put those people in charge of your editorial and pricing decisions, because here's this crazy idea. It turns out that maybe, just maybe, stories about people whose teeth fall out of their head are not actually that appealing to people, that there's not actually a heavily marketable product. And so when you see these decisions come down of, we got to have to reach out to a brand new audience because our old audience is dying, you have to look around and, basically blame yourself for hiring a bunch of people who have no idea how business works, with no financial incentive to learn how business works, and are basically going to, run the whole fucking thing into the ground because they're going to go to what they know, which is nothing. Probably sounds very harsh. There are lovely people everywhere. The tragedy of all this stuff is that comics and for whatever it's worth, are a, multi-billion-dollar global recognizable licensable franchise. Everybody knows these things exist. And yes, it's absolutely true. You do need to appeal to a different, to a new audience, not different audience, new audience, if you want to grow that pie. Because, one thing that is flawed in this thinking is you're like, well, if people in their 40s are all dying, we have to replace them with people who are younger. But no sane business will do that. That's a dumb way of thinking. You don't say, hey, I've got 100 customers, but 20 of them are going to die, so I need to find 20 more. No, a successful business goes, I've got 100 customers. Some of them will die, I guess, but maybe 20, but I'm going to need 500 more, 1,000 more, because I'm shooting for billions, not just, treading water. Treading water is not that interesting. Not that interesting to shareholders, not that interesting to anyone. So therefore, I want to grow my audience. And so the flaw of my old audience is, or my audience is old and dying, again, way too young than people actually die, but whatever, you're an idiot, so that's fine. The other flaw to that is none of these strategies are about actually growing the market. It's just about replacing one audience with another audience. And it just so happens that the audience they want to replace it with is one that the creators, the editorial, feel a lot more comfortable with. The people who are also potentially living in New York, making no money and, have no insurance and teeth are falling out of their head. When you're writing for that group, sure, but here's the punchline to that whole thing. The people whose teeth are falling out of their head can't afford comics. And you've also generated a market where the majority of your money are coming from variant covers and other speculating activities. So that also is priced and marketed way outside of the people you're going into. Whenever I see this, like, we need to appeal to a new, younger audience. Sure, but here's a good idea. If you're going to do that, you can't simultaneously have $10 issues, variant covers, and a bunch of other bullshit because this new teenage, early 20s, broke-ass audience can't afford that stuff. You're putting out a product that they can't afford. So, shocker, they pirate the book. It's why you see a lot of creators and even editorial now going, well, yeah, piracy's not that bad. At least it's getting eyes on it. At least people are seeing it. At least we're getting some brand recognition. At least I'm being seen. Well, again, that logic makes complete sense if you're not paid anything and you are, you're basically existing just to kind of be in the industry. But if you actually care about that royalty, that commission, and again, I grant you, the publishers seem to be stiffing a lot of people lately with those commissions. But if that's what if you don't care about those things, then yeah, I guess you don't care if the book that you're writing for the audience that, is questionable if it even exists, but definitely can't afford at the price point you're putting out. Why worry about those details? There's no point to worrying about those details. You don't need to. You don't care about the sales anyway. And that's why whenever I do these videos and I talk about, hey, it's probably pretty important that we cough up some real actual money to pay people who work in this industry, it's common sense. This isn't a complicated topic. It's as common a sense as, hey, people aren't going to age out and magically stop reading and die at age 43. Both things are very true. Only a complete clown is going to hear that and go, yeah, but what about the ones who do? Oh, fuck off. The ones who do die, whatever. And P.S., if you're paying more money in comics, you get different people. You don't just give the bums you don't give the people who can't sell anything, can't do anything more money. That would be stupid. You have to actually put more money in the system. Anyway, these things are all interconnected, but really it all comes down to, as I said, the simplest answer is usually the correct one. In this case, the simpler answer is people dumb. Thanks for listening.